Hey everyone, Jay Kwan here, and welcome back to another week's episode of a Locals game with myself playing Blurple versus a lower to the ground, more aggro Amber Steel deck. Got so many different types of decks that topped this week and last week. We had a lot of large tournaments actually that happened. Got a lot of really awesome decks like Brooms even topped and got a lot of Amber Steel and even Emerald Steel, Emerald Amethyst. So the meta right now is pretty diverse. It is quite wide open with a lot of different decks being able to compete for the top. So this time around, we're going to try out the new cards that came out in Reign of Jafar, which would be the Into the Unknown and also the Monstro. Monstro is a really good card, and I believe that the deck really needed a more of a board wipe because we didn't, we don't have like beat preps or any like solid removal outside of like Let It Go and Into the Unknown. So Monstro being able to continuously challenge by discarding a card every time is quite nice and definitely does come up in these two games here. As you can tell, this match here recorded is going to be a little shorter than most, just because again we are playing against an aggro deck. So one of the matches we do get cooked pretty quickly there. But looks like he starts it off, and we are going to ink the Gantu and playing the Cinderella. So again, we gotta watch out for the Cinderella being played on turn 1 because we can get Stormed or even Strength. So we ink a card and pass. Unfortunately, we don't have a Popsicle on turn 1. In this particular build that I made for Reign of Jafar, we did cut every single 1-drop character, and I'm kind of regretting it, to be honest. I personally feel like the deck is really good at challenging, so having 1-drop character like Broom being played, and then also having like Crab being dropped and having the Broom trade with characters like Cinderella or even Daisy Duck, trades really well, and quite frankly, like in these two matches I kind of missed it. But we did also do the turn 2 ramp for Azurite Sea, so we definitely like to see that. However, because we are on the draw, it is going to be a little bit harder for us to keep a board presence early game, especially because we didn't get that Popsicle into Bell. Okay, so looks like our opponent drops the Piglet and also drops Daisy. Now, with this particular build, he is lower to the ground, so we do have to be careful of the opponent emptying out their hand and then playing Dock to refill it. And also another thing we have to watch out for are going to be cards like Rapunzel. So if let's just say we have like a smaller character on board, maybe with like 3 strength, and we quest or challenge into something and they have a ready Daisy Duck, they could potentially challenge into us and then play the Rapunzel as well, drawing them 3 cards or up to 3 cards. So we always need to be wary of that type of play here. So the opponent locks us out with Pete and then sings Storm, Let the Storm Rage On, taking out our Iago because it is an illusion. So because it got targeted by an action, it does get banished right away. The opponent does still draw, and he quests with everything else. Daisy will trigger, getting me a Crab. Okay, so we're gonna need a couple of characters being dropped here. Preferably maybe like Peter Pan Shadowfinder into like another rush character, because even if let's just say we do drop the Elsa, it's not going to be enough to take out 2 characters or more. I did try to play the Azurite Sea there, but I realized I couldn't because again of that Pete's. Whole reason why he put the Pete upside down. Still managed to forget. Again, it happens quite a bit with just any particular like game that anyone could play, right? So you always got to watch out for Pete. It looks like I do just managed to scoop it up. So this is a crazy first turn, first game here for the Amber Steel player. This game only took like 3 minutes. So as you can see, we were cooked by like turn 4. But luckily for us, like on the 2-game format, we will get to go first now. Therefore, we are able to then set up 1 turn earlier than the player. And hopefully we are able to open up into Bell into Popsicle, or Popsicle into Bell, and then following up with a ramp into maybe perhaps another popsicle. But that's also another reason why I do miss having the other one drops such as Broom or Diablo or Chernobog, just due to the fact that it goes very well on that turn 2 Azurite Sea, and then you ink a card and then you can play a one drop character. But without those and only having Popsicle as our only one drop in the deck, I do find more times than most I'm not hitting on turn 1, or I'm not playing another card after. So we'll see. Might end up just adding more one drops after this game here, and in the future, which is still testing out, because again, we are trying to be like a mid-range strategy. So having that Monstro out and being able to play more into the board like later in the game is what Blurple does best, right? Because it does a lot of draw and it challenges a lot. So it's going to be able to like slowly recur resources over time. Whereas one drops are pretty prone to getting pinged. Just because right now it's a pretty heavy steel meta, right? Because you're seeing Emerald Steel being resurfaced with Into the Horizons, and then of course Amber Steel now playing Into the Horizons as well. So a lot more players playing steel decks, right? So again, we always have to watch out for playing one drops. So anyways, I started off and I inked the Azurite Sea and playing a Popsicle, being able to play the Bell right away. So we finally get our line. Now we're just hoping to have that Friends on the other side in turn 2. Now, the reason why you probably see me ink the Azurite Sea is usually because we have a Tipo or another Azurite Sea in the hand, right? So we generally don't care for having multiple ramps, just because in this particular matchup we do want to be able to have a wider board and establish our board. So ramping is good, double ramping is good when you're playing against those other Sapphire decks like Ruby Sapphire, maybe Amethyst Ruby as well, just to kind of get ahead of the curve later in the game. Being able to drop Hades relatively early, or even having that Elsa as well. Okay, so it looks like we are seeing, the Azurite Sea, so we do get into that turn 2 ramp. Now, luckily for us, with that Cinderella, it won't be able to take out our Bell if he does have the Storm Rage on. However, there are many scenarios where in turn 2, Amber Steel could just drop 2 1-drops on turn 2 and then sing Strength, right, to get rid of the Bell. And that would be a really, really crazy tempo loss in that case, just because they would have 3 characters versus our 0 at that point. Yeah, I've seen some pretty crazy plays like Cindy turn 1, and then you get to play Daisy Duck and into another Daisy Duck, right? So, and we also have to be, so this is exactly what happens here. So Cinderella into a Daisy Duck. Let's see if he does have the strength, though, to be able to take out the Bell. Okay, so it sings a Storm, putting 2 damage onto the Bell. This tells me a couple things, right? Because a lot of times players like to hold their Storm to be able to take out a character right away, rather than leaving damage on a character knowing that I have a Popsicle there. Meaning that this indicates that the Amber Steel player most likely doesn't have too many good answers right now, or just a good curve. So he could have maybe some uninkables, maybe he needs to find more inkables to be able to set up for that Rapunzel play later in the future. Luckily for us, we are able to have the Bell Shift, healing ourselves and taking out a Cindy, and then challenging into the other Cindy. And let's just suppose that if, a Rapunzel does come down, that Daisy Duck is not going to be able to survive a challenge from the Bell Shift. And we got another Bell as well. So this is exactly what we like to see against this matchup. Just again, Bell has the stats of 3/3, being able to take out cards like Cinderella, Smee, and a lot of the other smaller characters, right? It does have a little bit of trouble, in this case, taking out the Daisy Duck, but that's why we have the Bell Shift. We also have other cards like Into the Unknown that we could sing if Daisy's exerted as well. So he inks a lady and he plays a lady. So lady's a new card from Reign of Jafar. Allows you to play a character, I believe that's either 3 or 2 costs. I'm pretty sure it's 2 costs or less from your hand onto the board. So this is a really good strategy when it comes to those lower to the ground Amber Steel decks that plays Dock, because you're able to empty out your hand much quicker, right? And then being able to drop Dock the following turn. So I personally love Lady. It's good in this strategy. It's good in hyper aggro as well. And it just kind of almost reminds me like a Yu-Gi-Oh card, right? You're just extending the board and just going wider, and it's almost like kind of like a combo card, right? So you can do a lot of things. You could, go Lady into another card, and then if you have a Cinderella, you can sing, right? Strength of a Raging Fire, and then you can still play more cards from your hand if you have any ink, right? So it's just kind of like a way to spam the board and get more characters on early. So he plays a penny, giving, I guess, the resist to the Daisy, knowing that I would have to challenge 2 of my characters into the Daisy to take it out. Okay, so he sings the strength, taking out my genie, and then interesting. Okay. Challenging in. Playing a genie, okay. Drawing us a card. Now keep in mind that the Daisy Duck still has the resist 1 from the penny. So we won't be able to actually take it out with both our bell and the genie the following turn. Okay. But in this case as well, because he's at 3 ink and he only has 1 card in hand, I'm choosing not to challenge into that lady with the bell. Just because, again, like if he does have the Rapunzel, Daisy Duck can smack into the bell and then heal for 3 and draw 3 cards with Rapunzel, right? So we do have to be very careful of those types of plays, especially because right now he is in top deck mode. If he had the Dock, he would have slapped it on relatively quick. So again, that tells me that he is waiting for a Rapunzel play, and again, like if he does get that off, then he is going to be able to snowball relatively hard. So Penny is going to come down again, giving Daisy Duck resist once again. Challenging for everything. Daisy does get me the Monstro, but I think we are 1 turn a little early for the Monstro, but the following turn Monstro can definitely come down. So he does have to be wary of that, especially because there isn't actually a way to get rid of cards from our hand if he's not playing like Whole New World, right? Which we know that he isn't, because he is more on a lower to the ground strategy. So there's really nothing that he has that can sing Whole New World, because I don't even think you play Ariel, Spectacular Singer, in this particular deck here. Okay, so we play the Hades, getting rid of that penny and then giving him that ink. But it will set us up relatively well next turn, because again, next turn we are going to be able to have the Monstro being dropped. We do only have 2 cards in hand though, so next turn if we are inking something and playing the Monstro and using its effect, we are only getting 1 additional challenge with that. So again, like keeping in mind, like the Rapunzel could be in the hand, which is why I'm choosing to only challenge in with the Genie, just due to the fact that Genie is evasive. So he won't be able to challenge into my characters with Daisy Duck. So he hard casts a Storm. I believe we accidentally saw the Strength, okay, which he inks, and then he plays the Prince. So Prince is a really cool card. It's a 0/5. It is a bodyguard, so quite high stats and a really good Rapunzel target at that. But of course, being the fact that he doesn't have any cards in his hand, he had to play that Prince into my Monstro, and this is the perfect character right now to deal with that bodyguard, because of the Monstro's high stats, right? So I discard the Monstro, or discard the Elsa, ready the Monstro again, challenge the Daisy Duck, take out the penny, and questing 2 with the Hades. So again, like being patient here really paid off, right? Just to play around Rapunzel, we know that we're not going to lose the game quite yet. So being able to just slowly play into his board when the time matters, right? And plus that Daisy Duck did manage to also get us that extra card for Monstro. So we're quite lucky on that. So in Genie into another card, he did have the Lilo, but I think right now we are feeling pretty good. We did take over the board. Even if he does have a dock on the top deck, he isn't going to be able to take out anything on the following turn because again, this deck just wants to quest, right? So even like having Sven and Lilo, it is going to take him to 18 on the following turn, whereas we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lore right now on board, taking us to 17 if we quest with everything. And I do play the new Pinocchio. Pinocchio I found that was really cool too. All right, perfect. So you did scoop it up. So we did manage to get that 1-1. All right, thanks for tuning in, guys.